Most companies struggle with the damage of perishable products during the transportation process. This podcast enlightens you on how a temperature monitoring system can help to prevent product loss and give peace of mind during the transportation and distribution process. You are listening to FC BIOS podcast, the podcast that bringing science and temperature monitoring solution through your audio.
Medicine, meat, flowers, and all goods that require temperature control have one thing in common. They are all monitored during transport to make sure they are fresh and in usable condition. That's the first glimpse into the concept that we are going to discuss today, temperature monitoring systems in cold chain logistics. And joining us today, Mr. Sunny Leong, who will be sharing with us on the 3 ways cold chain monitoring system can solve your logistic problem. So, hi Sunny.
Hi Putri. Glad to be here.
Alright. So, Sunny, from my understanding, there are a lot of perishable products being transported without proper monitoring. So, without proper monitoring, these products will be in verge of product spoilage, which causes product recall. So, shall we start with the first way on how temperature monitoring system can actually solve logistics problem?
So, sure Putri. The first way that cold chain monitoring is able to solve your logistic problems is that it's able to give you instant notifications and alerts anytime, anywhere. So this is something which immediately gives an impact to anyone working in the logistics industry.
So how does that give an immediate impact?
Well, imagine this scenario. You have a cold container truck that is carrying goods that are 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. But midway through the journey, this trailer compressor broke down. So now the aircon in the container isn't working. Well, the driver may or may not be aware of this because he could be busy driving. But with real-time monitoring systems, you would be alerted if there is a change in temperature. Then you will be able to take the necessary actions, such as rerouting your deliveries or requesting for backup trucks to prevent this product spoilage from occurs. So, how this all works is that most cold chain monitoring systems offer instant notifications and alerts. With this, you get automatic alerts on the temperature fluctuations, which gives you an idea on the extent of which your quality of your products and whether they may be compromised to some extent or not. These alerts can come in the form of emails, SMS, and in some cases even calls, which eliminates the need for manual calls, like just calling people to check for the update on the product status, because you can receive these alerts anytime, anywhere.
Oh, I see. So if I may understand this, with instant notifications, their team will be alerted immediately if the temperature is out of range. And this could prevent potential spoilage or rejection by redirecting these trucks to another destinations.
That is correct, Putri. And the best of all, these notifications can also be sent to multiple users as well. They're not restricted to a single account. So what this means is that if one of the users is on vacation or has no mobile access like data access, other users could also be notified of the alerts and could access the temperature data as well.
Wow! So all these temperature data can be accessed easily and you don't have to be on site to just get an overview of all the information. So it means everything can be done remotely, anywhere, anytime. Wow, Sunny, this is quite convenient, I must say.
Yeah, Putri, of course. Technology is supposed to make our lives easier, and this is what it does in this situation.
Alright, Sunny, I guess what other ways that you can share with us about temperature monitoring which can help this cold chain logistics?
Well, another point I would like to add is that temperature monitoring can also help with data accuracy. You will get a better idea on how your cold chain functions when you have accurate data. Previously, we have established temperature monitoring can be done in real time since you are receiving real-time alerts and notifications. Now, when you compare this to manual charting, like when you have a worker just recording the data every hour, it doesn't give you an accurate picture of the readings within your cold chain storage because, firstly, an hourly basis manual charting is not a short enough interval, and it's also prone to human error. Not to mention, if your staff isn't working, overnight readings are not taken if your cold room is running 24/7. So, you will not be able to get the full picture of your temperature data if you rely on manual charting, and this could potentially be risky if you're carrying temperature-sensitive products in there.
Oh, okay. Sunny, I feel like now I can understand why temperature not recorded overnight could be risky for temperature-sensitive items. But the thing that I don't understand here is why does hourly recording during working hours still pose a risk to those items?
Well, because Putri, some cold systems such as your fridge or freezers and even cold containers have a thaw cycle of every 8 to 12 hours. During this thaw cycle, the compressor of the system is temporarily shut down, and this will cause the temperature internally to increase for a short period of time, usually within an hour. And this pattern is kind of hard to spot if you're actually taking readings on an hourly basis with manual charting.
Oh wow! Well, I am not informed about this thaw cycle.
Yes, actually a lot of people, even though there are manuals available to actually show you that fridges have thaw cycles, a lot of people are not really aware of this. So temperature sensitive items are actually not advised to be placed in these kinds of fridge and freezers that have high fluctuation in temperature due to these thaw cycles. Hence, there are certain fridge and freezers such as the pharmacy fridge or biomedical freezers that exist in the market where there is not much temperature fluctuation even though there is thaw cycles happening for those systems as well. So, but when you have an accurate temperature data, as a user, it helps yourself understand more on the nature of your equipment and your system. And you also be more aware of these, right? It helps you in your next purchase in organization, so you know what to take note of.
So I guess what I can conclude here is that having data is just not enough. So you also need accurate data to get the better picture or a bigger picture, and this is made easy by just having these monitoring solutions that can record at a more frequent interval. So Sunny, I believe you have you mentioned 3 ways, right? Like we mentioned 3 ways just now. So I believe you have one more way to share to our listeners on how temperature monitoring can solve their logistic problems. Care to share the last one, Sunny?
You're right, Putri. I still have one last point. And this point is actually on the data recording and analytics that you get from having a temperature monitoring system. So, for recorded data in a real-time monitoring system is usually stored in a cloud server, and it can be accessed anytime, anywhere, as we have mentioned before. This data that is stored there is actually really useful for setting the standards of accountability and auditability in an organization. But not just that, these data could also be analyzed and can provide some useful insights that can help in an organization in making corrections and improvements to their internal processes.
How is that so, Sunny?
Right, so when you have temperature data over the span of months and years, right, you will get an idea on the temperature profile of your trucks and your equipments and your cold rooms and whatnot. So in the event where you notice the temperature profile seems a bit off, this is when you're able to notify the team that perhaps maintenance and repair is due for those equipments, even though it's perhaps earlier than scheduled.
So in short, we can actually use cold chain monitoring as an indication on whether these heavy usage vehicles or equipments are actually due for preventive maintenance. Because what I can understand is that one can actually see temperature patterns and see if there's anything off and take a necessary action.
Yes, that's correct. Because when you're using some items in heavy use, right, they do need to be serviced more frequently, and sometimes you can't really see this unless you know understand equipment well. That's why the temperature profile comes in handy. And it is also very, very useful for actually helping improving on certain processes. Like we know that if we now know the cold truck is not cold enough, then we shouldn't use this truck for the delivery because using it is actually posing a risk for product spoilage.
Yeah, that's true. So this is what you were mentioning about it being a corrective measure.
Yep, Putri. Not just that, it actually also helps for improving other processes as well. For example, if if you know that coal trucks normally temperature they increase when the door is open, right? Because that's during the unloading process. But sometimes if a driver opens the door for too long, then the internal temperature will increase higher. It takes longer time for internal temperature to go down again. And this actually causes the possibility of the products being compromised. If you see this, right, from checking the data, right, and you see this happening, you know this, and you can implement proper SOPs to ensure the staff actually do their due diligence and actually follow the SOPs in the loading and unloading process to reduce the temperature shifts during the whole
process.
Yeah, during the whole journey of transportation of the products. So this data is actually valuable because you can identify problems and loopholes that are responsible for and that sacrifice temperature control for the sake of convenience. Sometimes drivers, they are not aware that they are causing this temperature shift. They just want to leave the door open because it's convenient for them. And by analyzing this data, you can actually remind the drivers that you should be following the SOPs and making sure that the products are not compromised.
Interesting, Sunny, interesting. So the data can actually be used as reference for the users and as well as customers, but it also can be used to optimize these processes as well. That's very interesting.
Yes, it is very interesting. It's interesting how data can be used this way, right?
And there you go, my dear listeners. With this basic understanding of different ways on how temperature monitoring system can benefit cold chain logistics, you are actually now informed enough to think about how you want to get your data and how you want to work with it. So I guess this is like a great place for you to start contacting your solution providers and seeing products and the features list. So Sunny, before maybe you want to go, you can share any of your last words.
Yeah, I do have one. For all your listeners out there who may be wanting to receive cold products for the first time, I have something to share with you, which is do make sure you to consult an expert on what you need to do for when it comes to receiving these cold products, because different cold products are received in different manners. Like for example, if you're taking in a pharmaceutical product that needs to be stored in cold temperature, perhaps if you want to receive the items, perhaps you can just use a temperature gun to check the internal temperature of the truck to see whether it is within the set limit, right? However, if you're receiving a fresh product like food products, right, then your method of checking whether the product is within the product range has to be different. You may need to use something like a kitchen thermometer to check for meat products' internal temperature instead. Because usually each supplier, they will tell you what is the temperature that they have set for the products, right? And if you're not using the correct method of checking during receiving, you may accidentally reject products that are actually already in good condition.
I see. So that's what happens usually for product recall sometimes.
Yes. Sometimes product recall could be due to the users not being well informed on what's the correct method of receiving. So it's actually a process of improvement for both sides as well.
Okay. So because temperature monitoring systems are the heart of food, pharmaceutical and chemical transportation, we can thank this temperature monitoring system and the vast improvements over the years that cemented it to make the world even more interconnected. So thank you again for being with us today, Sunny.
Thanks, Potri.
Well, looks like it's a wrap. So guys, if you have any suggestions or feeling a little bit cranky and would like to complain to us, do email us at enquiry@fcbios.com.my or follow us at our official social media. #FCBios. Goodbye.